How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new Forbidden and Limited List prediction video for March of 2021. We're going to be talking about what my predictions are, things that I would just like to see happen in general. I'm not making this to see how close I am to the real ban list. I imagine probably we'll only see maybe 25% of what I have listed here actually happen. Just consider the hopes and wants or predictions, etc., whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really make too big of a difference at the end of the day. And of course, really excited for this up and coming list. Not that this format we're in is very terrible. I think the format we're in is actually pretty good. But of course, it does have its fair share of problems and could always be improved upon. But still, nonetheless, looking forward to a new list because change, of course, is always exciting, especially when it comes to this game. Now, I know the meta thing to do right now with these types of videos is to choose 50 plus cards and throw it on the unlimited section. As much as I really wanted to do that, kind of like I did last time, I had a really big list. I just decided to trim it down this time because I wanted to make it more realistic. While yes, I think there are so many cards, way more than I'm going to talk about, that could come off the list completely right now and nobody would really bat an eye. I just don't think that it's that likely to happen. I just don't think we'll see it. Like a 50 card unlimited. I just don't see it happening, folks. I just really don't see it happen. But before we get into my predictions, I do want to mention a few quick ways you guys can support the channel. If you're looking for any TCG accessories, check out Imperium Duelist at the link below. They offer a wide variety of products such as sleeves, deck boxes, dice, binders, apparel, and playmats, including my very own playmat, Blazing Permafrost, which is on sale now. You can get all of these amazing products for 10% off using my discount code WinterKills10off at checkout and support the channel in the process. And lastly, if you guys are buying anything on tcgplayer.com or drawphase.com, do not forget to use the affiliate links I have to their sites down below. That way, if you guys shop using those links, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel, and it helps out quite a bit. And also consider becoming a member of the channel today. So the first cards we're going to talk about here are obviously the banned cards, the forbidden cards. The first one I have, and I'm sure you guys can guess what a few of these are going to be, but the first one I actually have is Guard Dragon LP. The main reason I have this card on here is because of a card that I'm going to be talking about afterwards, and a few cards afterwards, actually. I just feel like Dragon Link is still such an incredibly powerful deck, and it has been so powerful for so many years now at this point. Not years, but months and months. Dragon Link, dragon decks that have used guard dragons, etc., all the way back into Thunder Dragons. It's just been a very powerful decks, and I think even still in some of the more recent online tournaments, we've seen some Dragon Link decks pop up here and there. And LP is still the main contributor to that deck, I feel, and allowing it to be very competitive. And I think, with some of these hits that we're going to talk about, you kind of have to hit that deck a little bit. So once these other hits come into place, that deck just doesn't shoot into the stratosphere and become the overwhelming top tier combo meta deck that everybody doesn't want it to be, because it's been that already for so long. So I think personally LP should definitely go. I think it's been long enough. So that's about time it joins that of Agar Pain. Next up, True King of All Calamities. I talked about this card last list, and now it seems like everybody's on the boat that it should actually be banned now, one format later. Big surprise, but I think this card should have gone the list before, and probably even the list before that, and who knows, maybe even 6 lists before that. Just this card should have been gone a long time ago. All you really have to do is just read the text on this card. It was really only a matter of time before a strategy was going to be put into place that could take full advantage of that card, and that is Virtual World. Virtual World will live full and well without this card in the game. They have plenty of other good rank 9 opportunities to go into outside of True King of All Calamities. They don't even need to go for the rank 9 play. I mean, to begin with, they have other avenues of play as well. But it's basically a turn skip. Nobody really likes this card, and a lot of the arguments that I've seen for this card staying legal they're just really flat arguments, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just sheer 0 player interaction, and then when it is in the hands of the absolute best deck, it forces these scenarios where you have to draw the out, and the card sometimes is so protected. Sometimes there's 2 of them. That's why I don't oftentimes get the limit calamities option. or opinion or argument, whatever, because like a lot of times one is really just enough, and that's really all it takes. So I think Calamity's gone will just leave the game in a better place where you don't have a card that is denying interactions, forcing specific interactions at the same time, like drawing Dark Ruler no more, and in some cases, of course, that doesn't even work with Chuchi. Needing Forbidden Droplet, needing all these very specific cards at this very specific time just to get over it. And then it's luck based at that point. It's just up to chance if you'll actually be able to do that. And of course, that is no fun. The next card I have on here is Predaplant Verte Anaconda. I really, really struggled with not throwing Red Eyes Dark Dragoon on here. I hate that card. With all the grinding I've been doing on Dueling Book lately on my stream, by the way, link to my Twitch below, I've run into this card countless times, and I hate when it gets dropped. I mean, I hate setting up a board, and my opponent has absolutely no response as to anything that I do. They tell me to go off, no hand traps, etc., and they just go right to main phase, and they slap down Red Eyes Fusion without even awaiting a response because they're just that good at the game. And then all of a sudden, they get an indestructible, untargetable boss monster that can blow up monsters on my side of the field and just basically be a one-card OTK. It's the card, and be an Omni Negate on top of it. It's just an absurd card, so why didn't I put it on here? Well, it just comes from an accessibility standpoint, a similar thing that we had with the Orcus problem, where any two monsters would get you this really incredible combo. And it just didn't seem very balanced whatsoever. And it kind of warped the format into a point where every deck was just kind of Orcus, but watered down, or just, budget Orcus. It was just very, very stale and boring format. I know some people liked it. I personally don't understand. But it comes with Verte Anaconda, where you can make all the correct reads against your opponent. You could Nibiru, Gamma, Astral, whatever at the right possible time. But if they have two monsters left over on their field, they get a free Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. It's one thing if they hard draw the Red Eyes Fusion, but of course that can be countered with Ash Blossom, right? So there's a bit of a counter to that. But when it comes to Verte Anaconda, you can't Ash it, of course, because it sends as cost. And then the fusion effect, it's treated differently. You can't Ash it, right? So it comes out, and the ways you can sort of deal with it get limited. Not by a whole lot, but they get limited nonetheless. And then your opponent basically just gets a free 3k beater that can, negate stuff and blow up cards for free, all because they had two monsters. They didn't have to do some specific combo. They didn't have to worry about drawing this or that. They just had two monsters. That just seems like two monsters gets you a little too much nowadays, and I think Verte Anaconda needs to go. If Dragoon goes, fine, but this card, for the overall health of the game, it is not an if, but a when, the next busted fusion monster comes out, and Verte Anaconda is in everybody's extra deck yet again to abuse that said fusion monster, whatever it may be. And the next card up is Zexal. I feel like you can't talk about Calamities if you don't talk about Zexal, because Zexal's kind of the same way. Just turning off interaction. I don't really understand why Konami in the first place printed a archetype to turbo this card out. It was kind of cool that this card was obscured and it was just very difficult to make if you could pull it off, kind of a round of applause for your opponent. But then they just went ahead and made it too easy to make, just way too easy. And I guess it was just only a matter of time thing with Zexal, like it was for Calamities. And whether or not Zexal is making its rounds at the top tables really doesn't cut it for me, because I understand that a lot of times the balancing in Yu-Gi-Oh has to come from the top where the best decks are playing, but I feel like just as an overall enjoyment for everybody playing Yu-Gi-Oh in general, I think a lot of us could stand to not get Zexal locked for 2 to 3 turns in a row. Even if it's not that groundbreaking at the end of the day, it does basically force a turn skip. And that is all I have for banned. I know there's one blue card here that I didn't talk about, that I've talked about a lot of times, and it gets a free pass this time around. That's Crystron Halqifibrax. I've always talked about Halqifibrax being a card that I feel should be banned, just because of the combo enabler that it is. Right now, of course, it's not doing too much. It doesn't often equate to much. You know, it's been a part of some nasty combos in the past. You know, it still is a part of some really good combos right now. You know, with like Infernoble is just an example, right? But, you know, Infernoble isn't the monster that it once was. You know, it turns out hitting Smoke Grenade was the way to go as opposed to hitting Halka-Fibrax. But the main issue that I have is still that Hulk is legal still, only at the expense of, you know, other cards being banned. Glow Up Bulb, not Gofu, but Steam the Cloak, and all these, and Jet Synchron and O-Lion, right? Why are these cards banned? It's not because they themselves are overly busted, but you have this enabler that has come into the game that has all of a sudden made them problematic. So by that nature, I feel it should be banned, but I don't think it's going to get banned this list, and I don't really think it needs to get banned. But at some point, Halka-Fibrax, you got to go. We got to bring those tuners back, because I don't think a card should stay legal only if, like, other cards stay banned. I mean, there are some exceptions, of course, but Halka-Fibrax is a card that, you know, is... I have mixed feelings on it now. Whereas before, I never thought I really would change my stance on it. But we're going to move to the limited section now, where we have Ben 10. I talked to some people. I'm not super familiar with Drytron. I mean, I know the deck likes to abuse the hell out of Ben 10. Not a once per turn, by the way. But it turns out hitting Ben 10 to 1, you know, to my disbelief, actually will do something to the deck. The one argument that I heard, it makes it so they can't constantly spam Natasha, stealing a billion cards, because let's be honest, I think one of the most broken cards that Drytron can take advantage of isn't Ben 10. I think it's Cyber Angel Natasha, not a once per turn snatch steal that makes you gain life points. It's pretty busted. It's an insane card. I've lost many a games to it. Even back in the day, a couple years ago, I played against somebody who had a weird ritual deck that was able to turbo out, you know, Natasha, and I hated losing to that card then, and it really gives me nightmares knowing that there's a deck that can consistently take advantage of that, and that is Drytron. But I think Ben 10 to 1 is a great hit. Next up, Invocation. The Invoked engine. I know some people will think this is funny that I'm talking about Invoked, but the Invoked engine has been an incredibly powerful engine since its inception. Like 4 years ago at this point, and it's just a good engine. It's insanely powerful, it's insanely consistent, and I think hitting Invocation to 1 allows you to have the consistency be there still, the Meltdown, the Terraforming, the Alistair, but the chain that exists between Alistair, you know, recycling Invocation, and giving yourself a normal summon plus a search of a fusion card that gets you an Omni Negate every single turn is a little busted. It should be a little bit more fragile than that. They should be very careful how they use their one Invocation and hitting it with something like a DD Crow, etc., etc. Like, it should be a bit more breakable, a bit more fragile, because at the end of the day, it is a very powerful self-recycling engine that should be hit at this point, just for the overall health of the game. Next up, we have two cards that are going to the limited section from the forbidden section. Mirage Stalio and Harp Horror. Yes, Salamangreat and Orcus players rejoice. I do not think these cards coming back will change really anything at all. I don't think we're going to see some FTKs get brewed up, anything like that. If anything, we'll just see two decks that have really been shells of their former self just get to re-enter the game and be playable and be enjoyable and be just a little bit better, to give people more options of decks to play, make people think a little bit harder about their side decks and things like that, and you'll just get more variety into the format when you actually reintroduce Salamangreat and Orcus, if they have been out of the picture for so long now and definitely deserve to come back into the game. Whether, of course, that's at tier 1 or tier 2, that's for, you know, the player base to decide, but I think they should definitely come back. Miscellaneous Saurus is another card that I think should still be hit. Have you read Misk, right? The classic meme. I think it should just be at 1. The card just simply denies interaction. It's extremely searchable. I mean, what, playing 7 copies if it goes to 1 versus playing 9 now? I think you're just toning down the consistency. And once you deal with the 1 Misk, right, it's anybody's game from there. You don't have to worry about constantly being met with an entire board protector that just like makes already insanely powerful cards like UCT, Pankratops, Oviraptor unaffected by activated effects. It makes the deck seem a little bit more mortal, even though if it might not be doing too much right now, right? It's only a matter of time. You know, the format shifts, Dino goes back to the top, and people are complaining about Misk again. And just whether people are complaining about it or not, it's just an insanely powerful card that probably should just go to 1. And if it doesn't, I don't really care. I don't think it'll go to 1, but I would love to see it go to 1. And then next up, Saryuja. This is just like an overall for the health of the game. Saryuja going to 1. So you can't turbo it out, and if you do turbo it like multiple times, you have to like put it back to your extra deck, and then summon it again, which takes a lot more resources, obviously, like making a Nightmare Unicorn to put it back, and then making it again, right? Obviously, that takes more work, so I think at that point, if it's at 1, it's fine. Then semi-limited, I just have 2 cards, Sekka's Light and Speedroid Terratop. Obviously, I'm extremely biased when it comes to Speedroid Terratop. I play Speedroids. That's mainly why I put it on here, but I just don't think that Terratop going to 2 is going to really do anything. I mean, you already have Phantom Knight, Burning Abyss decks that can make Cherubini really quick and really efficiently. I mean, they'll just be able to make it still, which they already can do. That's like my only thing. And with Veritan Anaconda Band, you know, Terratop really doesn't need to be worried about is this link to creating Menace at that point. So Sekka's Light and Speedroid Terratop. Sekka's Light is a card that I think a few formats ago, it was more problematic. You had these big Monster Mash decks that were around, but with the way the format is, it's a bit slower right now. More traps are being played. People actually want to play spells and traps in their deck, so playing Sekka's Light would really have to force you to play something completely different. That would probably be not that great at the end of the day, and I think if anything, it might help out rogue strategies like Mermail or maybe Burning Abyss, etc., etc. Next up, we'll go to the Unlimited. I just have 3 cards here. Well, the third card is kind of like up in the air, kind of on the fence thing. The first card being True King's Return, then Dynamite Knight, the True Draco Fighter. True Draco, it's just all crickets from them, so give them a few cards back. I don't know why Dynamite Knight is still at 1. Just please, for the love of God, give them this card back. Keep, you know, Diagram at 1 still. And also keep Card of Demise at 1. We'll just leave those for a little while, and then maybe we can talk about Diagram in future lists. But Diagram has uses outside of the True Draco deck, which is why it's a little bit iffy. And then the last card for Unlimited, it's Call by the Grave. I had to talk about Call by the Grave because I just hate that it's at 1. I would literally rather it be banned or at 3, because it being at 1 suddenly trivializes a lot of hands where you draw that card, and the rate at which it happens is so sporadic. It just feels sacky. I would rather it be at 0 and not have to worry about it at all, right? And then or I'd rather it be at 3 so I can expect it, right? So I can try to play around it. Maybe Ghost Bell becomes more prominent, where you know, decks that get hurt by Call by the Grave have to actually play Ghost Bell, you know, so they can, you know, play around the card. So people are constantly, you know, okay, Call by the Grave is at 3 this format, that's fine. It's at 0, don't have to worry about it. It's at 1, maybe they have it, maybe they don't, right? Maybe my one chance at having another turn was this Ash Blossom going through on a Fossil Dig or something. They had the one I've called by. How likely was that? You know, at that point, it just doesn't feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! It feels more just like coin toss. I was at the slot machine, I lost, right? Just random chance. They happened to see it, that very unlikely chance of that one of in their opening hand. Or they could draw Ancient Gearbox, right? Maybe if I could draw Ancient Gearbox or Call by the Grave like I draw Ancient Gearbox, maybe I wouldn't be talking about Call by the Grave. I would, in my head, think it's at 3, but that's not the case. But yeah, that is my Forbidden and Limited List prediction. I wouldn't really call it prediction, more of a wish list, if you will. I think realistically, what I think is going to happen, I think Calamities will get banned, and I think Ben 10 will get limited. I think that, and then maybe the True King's Return will go to 3, just because it's in the semi-limit. I think Malicious will stay at 2, just because. But I think that's literally all that's going to happen. Calamities, Ben 10, and True King's Return. That's it. I think that's all we'll see, and then it's crickets for 3.5 months. I would like to see this or something, you know, in between this and the 50 card unlimit that people are talking about. But, you know, I think this is more realistic. I think this would be really good for the game. If you guys have suggestions that aren't you're wrong because I said so, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to check out the ways you can support the channel down in the description. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all the links to my socials down in the description. Join Discord. We have a really awesome community of awesome people, a lot of awesome channels in our Discord, so definitely check that out. Would love to see you in there. And yeah, hope you guys are having a good day. As always, Winner Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, a huge shout out goes to our Divine Level channel members here on YouTube, and they are Academic Thick, Zors, Cadillacs84, and Remtrox H. Thank you guys so much for your very generous and continued support of the channel.